Everybody, Joe Concha filling in for Steve Malzberg here on this Tuesday in New York. About 3:40 p.m. Eastern time, as we're going to talk to Seton Motely. He's the founder of Less Government, and he's going to talk to us about the president's use of executive power, and some would say the overreaching use of executive power. Seton, how are you?
Doing well, sir. Yeah, he's overreaching a little bit, yes.
Okay, very good. We've been talking about this a lot lately. Let me just give you the Democratic argument or the liberal argument around the president's use of executive powers here. As far as George W. Bush had 291 issues of executive power. Bill Clinton, 364, Ronald Reagan, 381, Barack Obama, only 168. So he hasn't been using the power of the pen as much, yet is getting a lot of criticism from the right. Why do you think that is, given the numbers are lower than his predecessors?
Well, it's a couple of things. One, past wrongs don't justify current wrongs. Two, people like us were complaining when Bush was doing it and Clinton was doing it, and as far back as you can go chronologically. I was a little young to be complaining about Reagan. Third, it's not the quantity, it's the quality. With one executive order, Obama imposed the DREAM Act. That's just one executive order, but that's a pretty wide-ranging executive order. So it's not the numericals so much as it is the quality of the executive order. So he's been doing huge things with executive orders where his predecessors have been nibbling on the edges, so to speak.
Recent executive orders signed by the president include raising the minimum wage for employees for federal contractors. You mentioned the DREAM Act, and of course issuing new banking guidelines for legal pot businesses as well. But it seems the one that really is riling people up is all the delays going on with Obamacare, which seems to be being done to push it beyond the 2014 election, even beyond the 2016 election in some cases.
After pushing it beyond the 2012 election, yes. And not only that, to me, one of the most pernicious aspects of the 29 delay or executive actions on Obamacare was the creation out of whole cloth of a crime, which was you have to swear under penalty of perjury to the IRS that if you reduced your staff of your business, it was not because of Obamacare. That is a creation of a federal crime out of whole cloth by the executive branch. There's been no legislative action on that. So that's particularly pernicious to me. Even more, I mean, it's all pernicious, but that to me, creating a new crime out of whole cloth is really obnoxious.
Well, certainly the voices of opposition are getting louder, Seton, but I think the question is, how do you stop it? In other words, if it is illegal, then why wouldn't there be a bigger outcry from the media, which seems to largely be ignoring this aspect? I'm sorry, that was some unintentional comedy there.
Yes.
But even from lawmakers on the right, what options do they have here to reverse all these executive orders that have been taking place over the last couple of months?
There's a couple. Of course, the old saying, measure twice, cut once, comes to mind. We should elect better people. But the only really two things that the Republicans can do is either cut off his purse strings or impeach him. And with a Democrat Senate, it's impossible to do either. What they should do, and if I were in charge of the House of Representatives, what I would do is I would set up a committee, and all they would do was have their own little communication shop and all that, because you do have some power behind you when you're a congressman, and just issue press releases. He did this today. He did this week, and really focus in, hone in on, and amplify all the different ways he's violating his oath of office in the Constitution. Other than that, they're not. Harry Reid's Senate is not even going to take up a bill cutting off the purse strings to say Obamacare, let alone pass it and put it on the president's desk. And then, of course, he has to sign it. Nor is a Harry Reid-led Senate going to vote to convict because it's a simple majority to impeach a president, as we learned under Clinton, but you need a 2/3 majority in the Senate to convict of the articles of impeachment, and that's obviously not going to happen either. We're we're in a bit of a predicament because people like us were yelling about Obama doing this in the first term, and it wasn't amplified enough. And as you said, it was not only not amplified but downplayed, and the people pointing it out were dismissed as racist and kooks by the media, and so it didn't alter the outcome of the 2012 election to get this lawless man out of office.
And Seton, this isn't even a partisan issue. You said that you've opposed George W. Bush, for instance, in the past as well.
Yes.
The framers obviously didn't, this wasn't what the intent was when they put together the Constitution, to have so much concentration of power in one branch of government.
Well, that was the whole point. And Obama, with his stupid talking points of I'm not going to wait for Congress, lest he forget, he had both houses of Congress, and the American people didn't like what he was doing with them. So the American people, in a sweeping, historic 2010 election, put a House Republican roadblock in front of them. That wasn't a green light to then just start unilaterally doing stuff. It was a red light to him from the American people to say, stop doing what you're doing and temper it a bit, i.e. temper it by negotiating with the Republican majority House. And he didn't do that. He, of course, just started. He was pretty unilateral. He was doing some unilateral stuff before, and since the 2010 election, he's gone bananas.
Well, it certainly seems like, regardless of all the delays, that Obamacare will be really an albatross during the 2014 midterms. Obviously, the Republicans will keep the House. There's a very good chance they only have to flip 6 seats to take the Senate. So it seems like the balance of power, even though the president may be issuing all these executive orders now, it will hurt him politically and his legacy ultimately. I know that isn't the end result that you want. But
unfortunately, even with the Republican majority in the Senate, it would be very narrow and not enough to really do anything to rein in, his unilateral executive actions, unfortunately.
And do you think this sets a bad precedent for Democrats, for Republicans moving forward?
I kind of view federal power as like a tendon, and when somebody pulls out their shoulder and they keep pulling out their shoulder, the tendon gets all stretched out. It never snaps back to constitutional tautness.
That's a great analogy, actually.
I think
from somebody who's
Obama
injured
views
his
one of his
rotator cuff.
legacy items as stretch. Right. He's blown out our shoulder, but he views part of his legacy as stretching the federal tendon as far as possible, because he knows it'll be flapping in the wind probably for all time afterwards.
Well, I'll give you 15 seconds to respond to a poll that just came out today that says, do you regret voting for President Obama? And these are to Obama voters, and 71% have said yes, we do.
100% of Hispanic, which I thought was really interesting.
That's fascinating. So hey, Seton, we appreciate you joining us. You look great on Skype, by the way, whatever camera you're using. Well done.
Well, thanks Steve Jobs, and I live on the Chesapeake Bay. The light behind the camera is the bay, so that probably helps.
The frozen bay, I'm sure, but hopefully that'll be changing soon.
Seton, it's almost 60 degrees here today.
Oh. Spring break right around the corner. Good for you.
I certainly hope so.
Seton, thanks very much for joining us, and enjoy the warmer weather. And Joe Concha, the Steve Malzberg Show. Back with more in just a moment.
The Steve Malzberg Show.